A pilot thought he was protecting the airport, but he was about to make a huge mistake. This is the story of how a pilot called the police on a 12-year-old boy, thinking he was a threat. But when the boy's dad arrives, everything changes. Stick around, because you'll be shocked by the twist that no one saw coming. It all began on a quiet morning at an airport in Georgia. 12-year-old Isaac was at the airport, eagerly watching planes take off and land. Isaac had a love for aviation, and he often spent hours reading books and jotting down notes on the planes he admired. His parents had instilled in him a sense of curiosity about the skies. On this particular day, Isaac had his phone out, recording a video of a jet taking off. He was so focused on the planes that he didn't notice Captain Richard Moore, a white pilot, observing him from a distance. Captain Moore, who had been flying for over 20 years, saw Isaac sitting alone and assumed the worst. He didn't think twice about calling the authorities. Isaac had seen police officers walking nearby, but he never imagined they'd be called to question him. He had been at the airport countless times and had never caused a problem. But now, he was the center of attention, surrounded by officers who began to ask questions about why he was there, where he was headed, and what he was doing with his phone. Felt his heart racing, his mind spinning. Why was this happening to him? The police didn't seem to believe his story. They checked his bag, his phone, and made him wait as they tried to gather more information. Isaac couldn't understand why he was being treated like a criminal. He was just a kid with an interest in planes. But as the minutes ticked by, Isaac couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Isaac's phone buzzed. It was a message from his dad, Thomas, who worked as an administrator at the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA. "Where are you, son?" The message read. Isaac, unsure of what was happening, replied, "Dad, the police are here. They think I'm doing something wrong." The message from Thomas was quick. "Stay calm. I'm on my way." Within minutes, Thomas arrived at the airport, dressed in a sharp suit, carrying his FAA ID badge. As he approached the scene, Captain Moore's expression shifted. The officers who had been questioning Isaac now looked up at Thomas. They quickly realized who he was. "Sir." One of the officers stammered, "We didn't realize." Before the officer could finish his sentence, Thomas stepped forward, showing his ID and confirming his position at the FAA. He addressed the situation with authority, asking the officers what had transpired. Isaac, who had been standing there in confusion, now stood taller, comforted by his father's presence. Captain Moore's face turned pale. He had assumed Isaac was a threat based on his appearance and behavior, a judgment that was made without any real cause. But now, in front of the FAA administrator, Moore realized his grave mistake. Isaac wasn't a criminal. He was just a curious boy with a dream. Thomas spoke calmly but firmly, explaining how the situation was completely unnecessary. "My son has been coming to this airport for years," he said. "He's passionate about aviation. He's never been a problem here." Captain Moore had nothing to say. His decision to call the police had been reckless, and he now understood the consequences of his actions. The officers apologized to Isaac, who was still trying to process what had just happened. His father's intervention had turned the situation around, but the damage had been done. Isaac was shaken by the experience, realizing that sometimes people would judge him based on nothing more than the color of his skin. In the days that followed, news of the incident spread quickly. The FAA launched an investigation into Captain Moore's actions. It was revealed that he had a history of racially insensitive remarks, though none of them had been formally reported before. The airport authorities reviewed their procedures, making sure that something like this would never happen again. For Isaac, it wasn't just about the airport incident. It was about what this experience meant for his future. Would he always be judged based on his skin color? Would he always have to prove that he belonged in spaces where he felt most comfortable? Thomas made sure Isaac knew that this incident didn't define him. He encouraged him to keep dreaming big and to never let anyone's bias stand in his way. But there was something more that Thomas wanted to do. He made sure that Captain Moore was held accountable for his actions. And through the FAA's investigation, Moore was eventually suspended from flying. The officers who had treated Isaac with suspicion were also reprimanded. This story isn't just about one boy and one pilot. It's about the systemic issues that continue to affect people of color, even in places where they should feel safe. Isaac's experience is not unique, and it's crucial to acknowledge the bias that exists in everyday interactions. But it's also about justice and how standing up for what's right can make a difference. With Thomas's help, Isaac was able to turn a moment of fear into a moment of power. This case serves as a reminder that we must all be vigilant in the fight for equality, and that justice, though sometimes delayed, can and will prevail. Before you go, if this story had you on the edge of your seat, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories exposing racial injustice and inspiring change. Like this video to help spread the truth. Comment below, what would you have done in Isaac's situation? And turn on post notifications so you never miss an important story like this one. Your voice matters. Let's keep these stories alive.